So thank you for joining us today. As I was just saying, Untitled Group, we run consumer insights, business insights, and to really understand what this means for your business and to understand how to implement that in store. I feel at the moment there is significant amounts of information and very much drowning in data. So it's understanding, well, we've got these insights, we've got these statistics, but what does it actually mean for you, the retailer, and how can we implement this? So this piece of research is our global consumer report, and this was done in conjunction with Ebeltoft, who are our global retail partners across over 80 countries. And this is one of two pieces of research we do with Ebeltoft every year, our Global Retail Trends and Innovations, which talks on who are the retailers around the world doing good things, doing innovative things, and really understanding what trends and what does this mean for me and how can we utilize this information. So just very quickly on this study, we had 14 countries that participated, and we surveyed over 13,000 consumers. So we've got a really robust sample here from all aspects. We've got a few little icons for everyone. So we have our female icon, male icon, also millennials, Gen X and baby boomers. So we're segmenting the data as well to really understand what difference it makes for demographics too. So I just want to start a little bit with a bit of a background about how important it is to really understand your consumer. And what does this mean? So in this age now, we need to understand our consumer on this really deeper level. I think this is a great quote. Executives who continue to attempt to navigate using demographic maps with borders defined by age, gender, location, and income will be ill prepared for the speed, scale, and direction of change. So I think what we're seeing here is we really need to understand our consumers' personalities. We need to understand their behaviours, and we really need to understand what drives them to behave the way they do, not purely just their age and location and then base their purchasing preferences from that. So just quickly setting the scene, we've got our 24-hour consumer now, and our consumers are very much changing. We can shop 24/7 at all times, in all areas, on all devices. I always joke that before I go to bed, I can purchase several things on eBay on my mobile phone that will arrive later in the week that I've forgotten about by the time they arrive, but I can do that at midnight when I can't sleep. So we know that as a retailer, we have to understand when do our consumers want to shop with us and using what mediums. So what does this mean? More empowered. So our consumers know more about our brands now. They've got all the information at their fingertips. So again, what platforms do we need to be on as a retailer? And one of the things that I think is very important is understanding what do your consumers want from you, rather than trying to be everything to everybody. And I think what we'll see from this research is that there is a lot of mediums that consumers are interested in, but rather than as a retailer trying to attempt them all, it's really understanding what's relevant for your consumers. And finally, we're seeing this busier economy, this attention economy. Busier lifestyle means how do we get through that noise? There is so much information, so much data. How as a retailer do we get through that and really connect with our customers? Going beyond that high level communications and really connecting with them on a deeper emotional connection. Now, before we move into the full survey, I just want to introduce, so there's myself in the room. My name's Anastasia Lloyd-Wallis. I am the head of the Consumer Insights Division at Untitled Group. And I also have Brian Walker with me today.
Thanks, everyone. Good afternoon. Delighted that you're joining us. This is a very interesting study, and we're pleased to be talking together.
Fantastic. So before we get into the full details, we're just going to set the scene a little bit. So I think one thing that we all know now, and putting a stat to it, is 80% of all retail is being influenced in some way by digital. So I think we need to understand what digital aspects our consumers are looking for from us. And we will be delving a little bit more into that today. So as a brand, what is your digital play? What is your customers' paths to purchase, and at what aspects? Because I do feel at the moment there are so many digital options out there for a retailer, both in-store and back-end. So really understanding what is needed to fulfill your customer expectations. We're seeing 30% of all grocery sales by 2025 will be delivered digitally. And we've seen that with the rise of Amazon, the rise of smart refrigerators, Google being able to understand when you've run out of products. And in another piece of research that we've done recently, we're seeing that already 20% of millennials are actually doing their grocery shopping online. So I see this 30%, especially in certain demographic segments, will be much higher by 2025. So have we got the right methodology in place for this?
Yeah, so that data is coming out of the US, but what it is showing us is increasingly this divide between the experience of shopping, which the social instinct tells us will never go away per se, but clearly needs to dial up. The commoditizing and value, convenience, and predictive qualities that sit with online. And we see the big data machines globally really starting to drive the predictive nature of online, such that you can see already we're starting to see higher focus on subscription services, online delivery platforms, fulfillment. That's all in that space. Mm. So that data starts to show us of this deepening divide.
We're already seeing in Australia to around 10% of groceries purchased online, and they say 20% with millennials. So we really are seeing this already starting to develop there and catch up. So our work today looks at 4 different areas, and we're going to kind of have a little bit of a look in each area, what the consumer research said, and also what are some great examples of this. And how do we actually implement that in a retail environment? What does this actually mean for you? So we're going to start with number 1, which is omni experience. So this is the seamless integrated customer experiences. What do we need to do? So firstly, 68% of consumers say it's important that stores provide options to pick up their order at store or from another convenient location. And we can see this is increasingly more important with our millennial market. So very much understanding what is the fulfillment aspect that our customers are looking for. And as a business, what can we offer?
So when we start to look at this, we see where Australia ranks on page 12 in this study. We see that 54% of Australians responding to this global study have bought a product online and picked it up in store. And of course, the converse applies, and that is store out to online. What it talks about to us is a number of areas. Changing consumer mobility, use of smartphones to enable and digital to enable interaction with a retailer, be it online or physical. It talks about capital spend for retailers, where they're allocating their capital funds to have a click and collect offer. You need to have a very good business information system, cloud-based, one view of inventory, endless aisles, and so forth. Now, to do that, that means deployment of capital. The third element it speaks about is the concept of online websites or brand, if you like, and then some physical representation or partner representation through a physical network. And that conveys to the way the brand is portrayed. So this is a classic retail ecosystem piece. And we could see here in the more urbanized cities, like the countries, I beg your pardon, like UK and London, there's a higher predisposition to this, but we can also see it growing. So what does that mean for retail clients? It means to be thinking about the ecosystem they're building and the capital investment in information that's required to have that real lifetime view. And finally, the concept of portable retail, agile retail. That is pop-up shops, distribution points, fulfillment centers, really thinking increasingly about agility and adaptability in the offer.
So we've got a couple of great examples here. So first one is from Brazil. And this is a fashion store in Brazil that it very much works as this collection point. There's one of every item in the store, so you can visibly view the stores. You can collect your orders from in-store, or you can also order online and collect. You can order in the store and have it delivered home. So it's really understanding this full fulfillment journey and what does this mean for our customers. A very similar example coming out of the UK with Zara. This was a pop-up store in the shopping centre, and very much the customer pick up something that they've ordered online, they can order it in the store and get it delivered home, and again, capsule collection for the customers to browse while they're there.
And I think what's fundamental here is this concept of pop-up store with real live access to inventory, customer tracking, product tracking, and the idea that we don't have to actually sign into long-term inline stay or leases, candidly. That's obviously key for a hub and spoke and flagship strategy. But here we are with a well-known brand using space, time, data in a very fluid way, and product in a very fluid way.
And again, coming out of the USA, this Nordstrom local. So it's the department store in a much smaller format and allowing this click and collect, visibility of the product range, ordering the full, being able to order in store for delivery home.
And so retailers are thinking about how do we build community, ecosystem, and fulfillment. And it was interesting to see the recent purchase by Wesfarmers of the Catch Group. This is clearly on their mind and on their agenda. They're thinking about this complete fulfillment strategy, or if you like, retail ecosystem.
So I think as retailers, it's very important to understand, one, what is our customer looking for? But increasingly, we need to be really considering this strategy. As now we're seeing 1 in 2 are ordering online for collection in store of the Australian population, and 70% of the UK population. So we can see what direction this is going to move in. So I think as a retailer now, we need to be understanding what can we offer? What are the channels open to us? So then we look towards digital. So we asked consumers what digital aspects they're interested in the in-store environment. And I think what was very surprising in the results here is quite the propensity of interest in these areas, in particularly VR. We're seeing 70% of millennials very much interested in having this VR experience in store. I mean, we've seen this launched with IKEA already, where you can take pictures of your home and you can then superimpose your furniture into your home environment to see what it looks like. So retailers are now taking this a step further. So this really allows you to have the much larger store space in a very small format, so people can really visualize all the options available to them. Interactive mirrors also coming up there as very much a demand. So customers really liking this, understanding we can try it on, we can order new sizes, or we can physically use the mirror to then send it to my email address. I save it for later, or I go and order it online when I get home, or I maybe pick up it in a different colour. So I think this whole interactive mirror, again, even with our baby boomer sector, we're seeing 40% very much interested in this feature.
So here we think about the architecture of the distribution of the strategy. And it's still fairly new, but of course all this technology-fueled retailing, if you like, enables tracking, it enables theatre in stores, and it enables a much more immersive experience to a brand. The consequence of that is a far more promiscuous and fast-moving customer across a range of touch points. By engaging them in store through the use of digital, that is predominantly a flagship experience. So in Europe recently, I saw, by way of example, Starbucks building magnificent cathedrals out of old banks and post offices in the European cities. Amazing buildings, amazing experience with digital. Seeing it in the sports retailers as well, and telecommunication, but not justifiable out into the network at this point. So retailers thinking about what is my social interaction supported by my digital interaction, and how do I play that in my flagship strategy? And then it permeates out across the brand.
And again, we've got a couple of examples from international. So we have one here, new format order with click and collect, but also we can have the whole experience, test driving products in store, VR, face recognition. So really this whole in-store experience from this appliances store. So then we move on to our second category, smart shopping. So how do we make it easier for our consumers? How do we make it convenient? And as we're seeing with the rise of the millennial consumer, we'll see the millennial consumer being the highest spending demographic group. So we need to understand how they're behaving and what are they looking for in this convenience factor. And I think, again, one of the things is time is very important now. Time is a commodity. So whatever we can do to save our customers time is really quite effective. And this stat just purely goes to back this up. So 72% of millennial consumers indicate that it's important that stores offer them options to save them time. So how do we get subscriptions, pre-ordering, mobile payment, app ordering? I mean, I think Amazon are doing this very well in the US, where they predict when you run out of products, you can utilize that and they will deliver on a regular occurrence. They will come into your house and they'll put it in your fridge for you. So therefore, you've got this whole end-to-end journey that the customer really doesn't have to be involved in. So it saves them the time of grocery shopping. I also always joke that if anyone can make me not have to go to Woolworths every week, I'd be very appreciative. So I think we're looking at, as a retailer, how can we make that end-to-end journey for our customers much smoother?
And it's to reconsider some of the traditional thinking about consumers, the traditional thinking about how consumers use time. So time is the new currency, in effect. So in working with clients, we're often looking at the way that their core customer, their segment, utilizes their time and how much available time do they have for interaction with that brand. And that brand increasingly is being seen to influence consumer time, reduce it, make it more enjoyable, make it more productive, and as a reward, engage loyalty or advocacy.
So when we look at as a whole, we can see that whilst Australia is sitting very low, we can see what sort of level we're moving to, with South Africa and Brazil really sitting up there. 87% of consumers say this is a major issue for them. So they really are looking to the retailers to drive this, to really help them have more leisure time. And I think this all comes down to this experiential. We want to save time on our transactional retail, so we've got more time for our leisure.
And then you think about how space in retail environments are used, and you start to look at the whole area of customer navigation, online out of shop, increasing the customer stick to the physical, supported by the other channels.
Now, this was quite an interesting stat that I thought. So 41% of consumers are actually interested in purchasing groceries through a smart refrigerator. So given that this is a very new technology, this really is showing that our consumers really are interested in how can we save time? How can we make my life easier? So I think this is really something that retailers need to be thinking about. This is just a great example of showing that customers really are interested in these aspects. Now, one thing that was quite interested in this survey was, in fact, the lower propensity for interest in voice control devices. So we can see here that Australia is only at 26% of consumers that will be interested in utilising, so for example, Amazon Alexa, Google Home. Now, whilst it only launched in Australia a little over 18 months ago, so we would expect it to be lower, but even when we look at the US, it's only sitting at 36% at the moment. And given that Amazon is in one of every two American homes, it's quite low there. So therefore, I think what we can see is, I think we're starting to see this distrust of data usage coming through. So I think this is going to come to a head very soon, for customers really wanting to know, how is my data being used? Is my Amazon Alexa listening to me when I'm at home? Is my Google Home listening? Is Siri on my phone recording everything that I do? And I think this is kind of reflected here. So rather than seeing it the way I'm reading this data as it being 1 in 4 customers, I would be expecting this to be much higher. So I think it's showing the customer shift in, while we want it to make my life easier, we've also got a bit of distrust.
I think the other thing that comes from this as well is that it is over time that we will stop tapping into the keyboards, and the voice control will be through a device will be the way that we tend to communicate with these technology-based platforms. And increasingly, customers will come into physical stores or even to online and have voice-driven communication via some sort of device. So in store, around product information, knowledge of content, whatever it might be, and ditto online. So expect over the next period of time to see more voice-controlled devices, and ultimately that will replace the tapping of keyboards in everything we do. Anastasia makes a very good point. We're yet to see the regulators start to move in on this thing around privacy. It's definitely on the board's discussion papers increasingly.
So we took a bit of a look in subscription services. And I think what is very surprising here, this is of interest to almost 1 in 2 customers. And when we look at the stats on how many have actually utilised these subscription services, apologies, these numbers actually haven't come up on the screen, but we're seeing that the purchase numbers are actually very close to the interested. So given that almost 1 in 2 customers are interested in subscription services, and this is in food, groceries, beauty products, and clothing, this is a very high proportion, much higher than we would have expected to see. So what does that mean? I mean, obviously it's not a space for every retailer, but when we look at who is your customer segment, who are your target customers, and what are they looking for, and coupling that with what type of retailer are you? Are you playing on the experiential retail, or are you in the transactional retail? And so if so, is a subscription model something that we should be looking at? And what is our point of difference to compete in this subscription area? And I think for retailers where that offer is a potential, it definitely needs to be looked at given such a high propensity of customers to be interested in these services. And it also ties very well into this time as the new currency, so how we can save our customers time. And again, we're coming in here, 66% of millennials interested in a self-checkout. And we're seeing that with the rise in Australia of the opening of 7-Eleven recently, where with the don't have to pay, we can just walk out. We've already got the Amazon Go stores in America, so very much driving this self-checkout. I heard a great question this morning. Well, what do you see about the people that are adverse to the self-checkouts? But as we're seeing this trend very much driven by millennials, and as I was saying, by 2020, millennials will be the largest spending power and will be one of the biggest demographic segments in the world. So I really see this trend being pushed through by millennials. So I think that there'll soon not be a lot of option in this to be offering self-checkouts, or even no option to be having anything else than self-checkouts.
And digital makes it all entirely possible. And what's getting interesting, of course, is that digital self-checkout that we live with today, such as supermarkets, is moving very much into the palms of consumers' hands via the smartphone. So there you've got this labyrinth of technology enabling consumers to be once again mobile, move in and out, rely less on cash and traditional methods. And the pin-up for this has been the Amazon Go channel in the US. There's currently around 20 of them, I believe. And as the slide shows, you simply scan the app as you enter, then it proceeds to pick up items that you desire. So there is no human interaction in that sense, and it's replenished. Now, Amazon are talking about its success and saying they're going to build 1,000 of these or so in the US in the next few years.
So again, what does this mean for you? So I think it's really having that detailed understanding of who your customer is, and then aligning, well, what is the path to purchase that they are interested in? What channels are they utilising? And then aligning that with, well, what am I offering them at the moment? Where are my gaps? What might I be doing unnecessarily? As what is I'm very keen to stress is that we don't need to be everything to everybody. We don't need to play across every single social media platform, every single demographic, every single media time. So I think what is important is understanding what is the alignment that your customers are looking for. And that's where to focus our time and our funds. I think we need to be understanding payment methods. We've done a lot of research recently to understand customers' payment methods, and is this something that's turning people away? Millennial customers now utilising mobile payments, so therefore not going to retailers that will not accept this, because they have no other way of paying. So how can we really understand what our customers are wanting?
So all good strategy, in our view, starts with very good, deep understanding and insights into consumers, and particularly the target consumers, present and future, of a client. And then it's taking it on board, as this survey is taking on board, their relationship with technology, for way of example, and retail adaptation to that technology.
So then we move into our third section of engagement. So how do we build meaningful relationships for our customers? How do we get them to walk past other retailers to come back to us? So here's one that's fairly straightforward. 50% of customers find it important that retailers and brands personalise emails and marketing. So we're in a situation now where every retailer, no matter the size, must have a database. But it's how you're utilising this database that's important. How are we connecting with our customers? What are we offering them? How do we cut through that noise so that they really understand what it is we can offer them and target them?
And this speaks to the opening slide that Anastasia showed, which was the attention economy and making it about me. So increasingly, retailers, if you like, in their brand, in the way that they communicate, in their offer, and the way that that offer reaches that correct target customer is fundamental. So the days of the one size fits all we've moved very much from the herd to the hunter. And that's what consumers want.
Great. And what we're looking at here is actual personalisation. So this is not just in the communications, but of the products. And I was very surprised at how high this figure was. So 65% of millennials, Australian millennials, are interested in personalising the products that they buy. And actually 44% have purchased these products. So I think, again, it's understanding, is this an offer for our customers? With such a large proportion having purchased, and we're seeing this as a trend throughout the world, so we can see almost every country involved, we're having a very high ratio of purchasing and intent to purchase. A great example from Australia, so this was one of the stores that we've nominated. If anyone's been to the Daily Edited store in Westfield in Sydney, this is their flagship store, laid out like a studio apartment, and you can pick up the products throughout the store. You can have it personalised with your details, your initials, your name on it, any colour, any style that you want. And you can have this through all aspects of your life, from t-shirts, I believe they've now launched into pyjamas, handbags, notebooks, absolutely anything. So I think it's this very small tweak of how do we make it special. A great example from Converse as well. Again, very simplistic. We can see they are utilising sewing machines to embroider onto the shoes. So a very straightforward example, but again, showing a way that we can connect with our consumer. What was very interesting in this particular question was we were wanting to understand what are customers interested in events. Now, we've almost come full circle here, whereas we would expect people to be all interacting online and not wanting to be going into the store. But what this is actually showing us is there's even bigger drive from millennials to actually have that in-store experience, to attend stores and have events in the stores, really understanding they want this local area, this community feel. I want to go into my local store and I want to be part of that community and take part in an event. I think what we saw very much with Mecca Land, for those that saw that advertised a couple of weeks ago, so the beauty chain Mecca launching the special event, and customers actually had to pay for the privilege to attend the special event, and it was sold out, a huge event, and basically customers want this experience, and I think again it's to show this divide between transactional retail and experiential retail. So again, even being driven more by millennials. And I think one of the myths that we keep seeing about millennials is that they won't spend the money. However, what we're seeing is they haven't got the the demands for a mortgage. They've decided they're not purchasing houses, not purchasing cars. So therefore, they have got the disposable cash to utilise on things that they want. So they really are looking for this experience. So I think it's really understanding what can you do for your community. I think a great example of this as well is Lululemon, really creating this in-store events. We've also got an example from Spain here of Imagine Cafe, who have got this retail concept and very much in a bank, and it's a community hub where you can have events and services. So it's really getting the community involved in the space, drawing them into the store, and really becoming part of that tribe.
I think they even have music bands there, don't they, on Friday nights and all that sort of thing.
And this was a piece of research that we'd done for one of our clients, Carbotech. So they were wanting to understand, well, how do we compete with Bunnings? So, you know, Bunnings have got all the tools, they've got the low prices, but how can we make it different? And one piece of information that came out of the research was that a lot of people were very much interested in using tools. They just didn't know what to do. They really didn't know where to start. So what this showed us that by creating an in-store environment where people could learn, they could take part in classes, they could come and build things in the store, and they could come back regularly and learn a new skill every single time, I think was really interesting. And so again, creating this Carbotech community. So we move into our final chapter, and this is activism. And I think every piece of research we do will come as no surprise to everyone, that it's very much becoming top of mind for everyone. Every business now needs to be thinking about sustainability, ethics, social responsibility, transparency. And I think it's also becoming a point where it's very difficult for retailers to understand what actually should they be doing and where should they be playing it. It's no longer enough to just be donating money to a charity of choice. There's really got to be an alignment between brand values, mission, and then customer identity as well. What are we all looking for, and how do we align this in our social responsibility aspects? So I think it's no surprise that the answers to these questions show that basically almost all consumers, especially when we look Romania, Brazil, France, in excess of 90%, it is very much a hygiene factor now. So we want our retailers to employ social responsibility. We want to see that they are making a return to society. And even though Australia is towards the bottom end of the table, it's still sitting very high at 77%. And again, when we look at demographic split, even more so amongst our female demographics. And a great example here from Denmark of a brand showing very much both the sustainability with the end-to-end of where all their products are coming from, and then utilising profits to reinvest, to really help people who are along their fulfilment chain. And the next one, we're looking at sustainability in the environment. And again, very similar numbers. So it's really becoming top of mind to consumers as to what I want to see this in my retailer. I will walk past other retailers that do not have these initiatives because it's really something I believe in. We're seeing this more with the rise of social media now because everybody is very transparent. Everyone can see into everyone else's lives. And so we're actually seeing this even more so with our millennial and our Gen Z segments, that they're really wanting to understand what does this mean for them, where has this come from, how have I contributed to society, to global warming, or to whatever cause that sits close to them. And so we're really seeing them pushing retailers to make this difference. And this was a great example of just thinking outside the box. Spanish retailer using coffee grounds to make clothes. And we're seeing this coming up more so as well in our charity sector, so in our op shops. So not only are they creating an environment for repurposing clothes, they're then taking stock that is not utilised for them, and that is then getting recycled and getting really stripped down to fibres and utilised for the larger retailers to then produce sustainable clothes. So we really are seeing the circular economy becoming a real focus amongst our consumers. We're even seeing it with when we're looking for employment. So It's starting to become very much more of a trend, in particular amongst our younger demographic, that choosing a business to work for becomes aligning it with your social beliefs. So it's really important that retailers really understand what is their social beliefs, what is their sustainability, and not trying to be everything to everyone, picking something that aligns, that is genuine for them, that their customers and their staff can relate to. And this is looking at this transparency. And again, we're seeing very high figures that show 74% of Australians, we want to understand how products are manufactured. So we really want to see, where's our product come from? We're seeing this coming out now more in the supermarkets, but I think it's becoming more and more apparent in all aspects of retail. So what does this mean for you as a retailer? How can we show where our products and what we are doing to show this transparency? There was an example, this one was from the USA, which ethical production, and is really shown in the stores so people can see where the products come from, where all the materials have come from. And there was a great example that I believe was coming out of Spain, that even in the price tag, the price was broken down to show how much is materials, how much is labour, where's it all come from, and all the information. So it's full transparency for customers, so they can really connect with, where has this product come from. And I think 40% have actually walked past another retailer because they don't agree with the sustainability. So they've chosen one retailer over another because they do not align with that particular retailer's sustainability. So I think what we're seeing now is, this is a really large percentage, and it's always growing. Every single piece of research we do, and which is several times a month for whatever client, it's becoming a much higher preference. We're seeing it in particular in the tracker studies, where year on year it's rising in consumers' minds to be top 3 very much for all retailers now, and all aspects. So I think, what does this mean for you? Really understanding, what is your vision and what is your company mission? What are your brand values? And then from there, we can really understand, well, what is actually going to connect with us? What is genuine for us? And therefore, what it will bring genuine customers, and the customers will want to align. We can see over 80% say it's relevance to their choice set. So 80% of customers say that this has got an impact on their choice of retailer. So I think this is really key, that it can't be an afterthought anymore. It really does have to be top of mind. And then we've kind of talked on this as we've gone through. So very much in summary, firstly, it's really important to identify who your customer is. What are your demographic segments? What are your customer personality types? Who are you targeting? And then really understand their behaviours through all aspects of their path to purchase. So from doing that, we can then understand, well, what are they looking for in stores? As I mentioned at the start, there's so much data available. And I think the key thing that I can not stress too much is that it's really got to be, what is your customer wanting? You don't have to be everything to everybody. It's okay to not want to attract certain customers. So really focus on those that you do want. And what do they want? What mediums do they want to play in? What digital aspects do they want? And then from understanding that, we can really touch on all of these issues. What is the in-store experience, event strategy, omnichannel, personalization? And this may not be relevant for all businesses. So it's really understanding, who are your customers? And I think what we're seeing the rise of, especially in the last 12 months, this sustainability and subscription service is very much coming up. If we'd run this work 12 months ago, this would not be as front of mind as it is now. And I think one of the surprises for me from this work was that events are becoming so popular. I mean, you would expect, given the rise of the omnichannel retail, that in particular digital natives would be more interested in the digital aspect and not needing to go in store, but we're seeing the rise of in-store events. So we're very much seeing these two extremes.
So in building the community, in hindsight, I'd probably add fulfillment into that particular diagram. But Anastasia makes the point about the retail ecosystem, and many of the original metrics around in-store performance, retail performance, focus on product architecture, pricing, still remain. But now we talk about the community, and as Anastasia has pointed out, we talk about the mobile customer. And what this data and survey is showing us is an increasing awareness of environment, an increasing awareness of cause, personalisation, and invariably retailers underpinning their offer with a direct-to-customer focus.
Great. Well, that comes to the conclusion of our presentation today. And so if anyone's got any questions, feel free to send them through and we can answer immediately. Alternatively, my email address is on the screen, so do not hesitate to contact me. If there's anything that raised questions for you, or if you really want to understand, well, what does this mean for me? We can help you. We can run workshops with you to understand, what does this data, who is my customer, what is my path to purchase? And we're also running an offer at the moment. What are the top 3 questions you'd like to ask your consumers? And it's a complimentary offer. So we will ask consumers 3 questions for you so you can really understand your consumers. So again, don't hesitate to get in contact if you've got anything there. And we thank you all for joining us today. The white paper will be available to download, so we will send you an email shortly with a copy of that paper.
So on behalf of myself, Brian Walker, and Anastasia, Lloyd-Wallis at Untitled Group, thank you very much. And we look forward to any questions, and we look forward to talking with you shortly.